My name is Samuel Price. I'm 62 years old and I live in a small town outside Columbus, Ohio. People here know me as the man who always carried too much on his back but never complained. A quiet man, a working man, and maybe that's true. But what most people don't know is that everything I ever did, every choice, every sacrifice, every sleepless night was for one person, my son, Matthew. I wasn't born with much. My father was a factory worker. My mother cleaned houses. I grew up on hand-me-down clothes and simple meals, but I was taught two things: work hard and family comes first. I carried that with me my whole life. When Matthew was born, I remember holding him in my arms, this tiny bundle with a full head of dark hair, and promising him out loud, "You will never struggle the way I did." It wasn't just words, it became my purpose. Life wasn't easy. I worked 2 jobs most of Matthew's childhood. During the day, I loaded trucks at the warehouse. At night, I cleaned offices downtown. Some nights, I'd come home after midnight, hands raw, back aching so badly I could barely stand straight. But when I peeked into his room and saw him sleeping peacefully, all the pain slipped away. I told myself it was worth it, always worth it. There were so many small sacrifices people never noticed. I wore the same winter coat for 10 years so he could have a new one every season. I patched up my boots with duct tape while he walked around in the latest sneakers. When the old Ford broke down, I started walking to work so I could use the money I would have spent on repairs to pay for his baseball gear. To him, it was normal. To me, it was survival, a father's quiet math. When he was in high school, I sold the last piece of land I inherited from my father, a 2-acre lot that had been in our family for generations. I wanted to keep it, maybe build a small place to retire on someday. But Matthew had been accepted to a good college, and tuition wasn't cheap. So I signed the papers, handed over the deed, and used every penny for his education. The day I told him, he hugged me and said, "I won't let you down, Dad." I held on to those words like scripture. I remember my daily routines during those years so clearly. Waking up before sunrise, making a pot of weak coffee because real grounds were too expensive, and sitting at the kitchen table going through bills with a dull pencil. I'd circle due dates, write numbers in the margins, trying to stretch a dollar so far it almost snapped. Then I'd pack Matthew's lunch, 2 sandwiches if we had enough, 1 if we didn't, and leave mine behind. By the time I got home, the kitchen would be dark, but his homework would be spread across the table. I'd stand there smiling, proud of him, proud that my sacrifices gave him the chance to dream bigger than I ever could. Everyone in town used to tell me I spoiled him. "You're giving that boy too much," they'd say, but I didn't see it that way. I saw it as giving him the wings I never had. What's the point of a father's hard work if not to build a ladder for his child? That's what I believed. That's what kept me going through every blister. Every night I crawled into bed too tired to eat, too tired even to pray. I still remember the day I handed him the keys to his first car. It wasn't new. Lord knows I couldn't afford that. But I'd saved for months, skipping meals, patching old clothes, pinching every penny. It was a used Honda, a little banged up but reliable. Matthew grinned like it was a Ferrari. "You're the best, Dad," he said. My chest swelled with pride. That smile was worth every sacrifice I had made and every one I would make. For years I told myself this was the right path, that one day when he was successful, when he was standing tall in a world that had once looked down on me, I'd finally feel like all my struggles had been worth it. I imagined us side by side, me old and bent, him strong and thriving, and thought, yes, this is what it means to be a father. I didn't know then that the very boy I gave everything to would one day leave me with nothing, that all those sacrifices I made in silence would be repaid, not with gratitude, but with betrayal, so sharp it cut deeper than any knife. But that part of the story I'll get to later. By the time Matthew left for college, I felt like I was watching a piece of my soul walk out the door with him. I carried his bags down the driveway, my hands trembling, not from the weight, but from the thought of letting go. He hugged me quick, already distracted, already excited about what lay ahead. I watched the bus drive off until it was just a dot on the horizon, whispering a prayer under my breath. Lord, take care of my boy. The house was never the same after that. Quiet in a way that gnawed at me. No sneakers thrown by the door, no music thumping from his room, no half-finished cereal bowls left on the counter. Just silence. I filled it with routine, coffee at dawn, work all day, TV humming in the evenings. But it wasn't the same. Still, I told myself it was worth it. Every empty chair, every lonely night was worth it if it meant Matthew was out there building the life I had dreamed for him. At first, he called often, Sunday evenings like clockwork. He'd tell me about his classes, his new friends, the campus life that seemed like another world compared to our little town. I'd sit there in my worn recliner, smiling so wide my cheeks hurt, just listening to him talk. I'm proud of you, son, I'd always say before we hung up. Keep going. He'd laugh and say, I will, Dad. You'll see, the first time I noticed a change was during his sophomore year. The calls grew shorter, less detail, more excuses. Sorry, Dad, I'm busy. Can't talk long, Dad, got plans. I brushed it off as normal. He was young, finding his way, surrounded by new people. Of course he'd be busy. Still, I missed the long talks, the sound of his voice filling my empty house. Then came the holidays. He brought a girl home with him, Jenna. Pretty, sharp, full of city confidence. I welcomed her, cooked the biggest dinner I could afford, even pulled out the good dishes we rarely used. But I noticed the way Matthew shifted in his seat when I spoke, the way his eyes flicked to Jenna, almost embarrassed by my simple stories, my plain clothes, my rough hands. When I told a joke, he laughed too loud, forced, as if trying to cover for me. It stung, but I swallowed the hurt. He was just growing up, I told myself, just adjusting to different worlds. After college, things moved fast. Matthew landed a job at a financial firm in the city. He called to tell me the news, and I cried like a fool, sitting alone at the kitchen table, staring at the cracked linoleum floor. My boy, the first in our family to wear a suit to work. I pictured him walking into a tall building, briefcase in hand, and I felt 10 feet tall. All the blisters, the missed meals, the nights spent cleaning offices. It had all led to this. I'm proud of you, I told him again, my voice breaking. He chuckled softly. Thanks, Dad. The city swallowed him whole. Weeks turned into months without a visit. When he finally came back, he was different. His hair slicked back, his clothes expensive, his watch shining under the light. He looked good, successful, confident, but he also looked distant. He shook my hand more than he hugged me. He checked his phone constantly. He sighed when I asked too many questions about his work. I told myself it was just the stress of a new job. One night he invited me to dinner at a fancy restaurant in the city. I wore my best shirt, the same one I wore to his graduation, and I polished my old shoes. Walking in, I felt out of place, surrounded by glass chandeliers and white tablecloths. Matthew looked sharp, seated with his colleagues. He introduced me quickly, almost as an afterthought. This is my dad, he said, then turned back to his friends. They smiled politely, but their eyes said it all. I was the outsider, the working man, the father who didn't belong. I tried to make conversation, but Matthew cut me off, embarrassed. Dad, let's just enjoy the meal, okay? He said, his voice clipped. I nodded, forcing a smile. I ate the meal in silence, every bite tasting like ash. That night, walking back to the bus stop, I realized something I didn't want to admit. My son was ashamed of me. The calls grew fewer. When I did hear from him, it was usually because he needed something. a loan for a new apartment, help with car payments. Just until payday, Dad, he'd say. And I'd always say, yes. I'd sell a tool, skip another bill, tighten my belt even more. Because that's what fathers do, right? They give, even when there's nothing left to give. Then came the day he asked me to sell the house. It's just too much upkeep for you, Dad, he said over the phone, his tone practical, almost cold. You could downsize. Move somewhere smaller. The money would help me get into this new investment opportunity. It's a sure thing, Dad. We'll both benefit. I stared at the walls of the house I had built with my bare hands, the photos of Matthew as a boy still hanging in the hallway, and felt a pit in my stomach. Sell the house, the one place I had left that was truly mine. But when I heard the urgency in his voice, the excitement, I caved. I told myself it was for his future again, always for his future. I signed the papers, handed him the check, and told him, "Make me proud, son." He hugged me briefly, distracted, already thinking about what came next. I stood there watching him drive away in his sleek car, clutching the steering wheel like he owned the world. I whispered under my breath, "Don't forget me, Matthew." But deep down, I already knew he was slipping away, and I didn't know then how far he would go, how deep the betrayal would cut. The day it all truly broke wasn't loud. It wasn't fireworks or shouting matches or slammed doors. No, betrayal has a way of creeping in quietly, slipping into the cracks you didn't even know existed, until the whole foundation collapses. For me, it was a Tuesday afternoon in early autumn, the kind of day where the leaves burn orange against a pale sky and the air smells faintly of endings. Matthew hadn't called in weeks. When my phone finally rang, his name flashing on the screen, my heart leapt like it always did. I answered on the first ring, my voice too eager. "Son." "Hey, Dad," he said quickly, almost businesslike. "Listen, I don't have much time. I need a favor." My chest tightened. That was how our conversations went now. No small talk. No, "How are you?" Just needs. Always needs. "What is it, son?" I asked, trying to sound steady. He launched into a pitch about a new opportunity, a big investment, one that would set him up for life. But he needed more capital. Fast. He had already sold the car I bought him, already drained the savings I'd helped build. Now he wanted the rest of what I had left, the last insurance payout, the small retirement fund I'd been guarding like a secret flame. "Dad, this is the last time I'll need help," he promised, his voice impatient. "You'll see. Once this goes through, I'll take care of you. You won't have to worry about anything ever again." I sat there in my quiet kitchen, the hum of the old fridge filling the silence between us. My hands trembled as I looked at the worn checkbook on the counter. I had already given so much, sold the house, emptied savings, skipped meals, and still I told myself maybe this time would be different. Maybe this would be the thing that finally turned it around. "All right," I whispered. "If it helps you, I'll do it." He exhaled, relieved, but not grateful. Not the way I'd hoped. "Thanks, Dad. You won't regret it." Then the line went dead. No "I love you," no warmth, just business. I didn't see him for another 3 months. The money vanished like smoke, swallowed by whatever deal he'd been chasing. When I asked about it, his answers grew vague. "It's complicated, Dad. It'll come through soon. Just trust me." Each excuse chipped away at the last fragile piece of trust I was holding on to. Then one evening a letter arrived, no return address. Just my name, scrawled in Matthew's handwriting. My hands shook as I tore it open. The words were blunt, cold, written as though from a stranger. "Dad, I need to move on with my life. You've done enough for me, and I can't keep carrying you along. Don't try to call. I'll reach out if I can. Please understand this is for the best. Matthew." I read it again and again.
the words blurring through tears I couldn't stop, carrying me along. My breath came in short gasps, my chest tightening as if the walls were caving in. Everything I had given, every sacrifice, every drop of sweat, every night of hunger, every brick of that house I sold, it had all come to this, a letter, a goodbye with no warmth, no gratitude, no love. I sank to the floor, clutching the paper in my fist, rocking back and forth like a child. My heart felt hollow, scraped raw from the inside. I wanted to scream, to rage, to tear the world apart, but all that came out were broken sobs. I gave you everything, I whispered into the empty room. Everything. Days blurred into nights. I stopped answering the phone, stopped opening the curtains. The neighbors whispered when they saw me, hunched and gaunt, walking to the corner store with coins in my pocket. I didn't care. My world had shrunk to the size of that letter, those words branded into me like fire. One night, I dreamed of him, a little boy running barefoot through the yard, his laughter ringing in the summer air. He looked back at me with those same wide eyes he had as a child, eyes that used to hold love and trust. I woke up clutching the sheets, tears soaking the pillow. For a moment, I almost believed it had all been a mistake, that any second now he'd walk through the door, grinning, saying, "Sorry, Dad, I messed up." But the silence crushed that hope. The betrayal wasn't just that he left me, it was that he erased me, as if I had been nothing more than a stepping stone on his way up, as if the father who bled for him, who sold his dreams for his future, was disposable. And yet, even in that hollow pit of grief, I still whispered his name before I fell asleep, still prayed for him even when I felt my faith faltering, because love doesn't stop, even when it's broken. That's the curse of a parent's heart. But I knew deep down, something inside me had shattered beyond repair. The man I had built my life around, my son, had turned his back, and I was left holding the fragments of a love that had been taken for granted until it was thrown away.
The weeks that followed were the quietest of my life. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, like when you sit on a porch and listen to birds at dawn. No, this was the suffocating silence of an empty house, the silence that creeps into your bones and makes you question if your existence even matters. I had given everything for my son, my house, my savings, my health, even the pride I once